Here. Sorry.
No worries. Trustee Guyona,
Here.
Trustee Shibomihi.
Here.
Quorum is present. So we will now ask if there are any speakers regarding closed session matters. I'm sorry, we need to approve the agenda first. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I will make the motion that we, oh, wait. Yeah, I'll make the motion that we approve of the agenda.
Second.
Wait, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
because there's some stuff I need pulled off of the consent.
Okay.
I should do that now.
Yes.
Okay, good. I almost forgot. See, I'm like slipping. So 7B, 7G. Oh, shoot. I have the old agenda again. In any case, oh, hold on.
Do you know what contracts they are so we can just help you?
Yeah, so 7J, the one with the city of Menlo Park.
Okay.
The school's plans.
So the City Menlo Park is J, so you were correct.
Yeah, it's J, yeah, okay.
And then
And then the,
7B, school safety plans,
say that again?
the school safety plans.
No, I
7B.
don't want that off. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I have a couple of questions.
okay, so 7B and 7J, correct, Trustee Wilson?
7G. Oh, sorry. So the audio visual, whatever the one is, the audio visual person. I just have one question.
Okay. That is. Okay.
That's 7G.
So 7B, G, and J.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda with those changes.
So I'll make that motion.
I would like to, sorry, I
Oh.
was trying to talk, but I was mute. I would like to pull AB, the contract. Did you hear me? Can you hear me?
Oh,
Yes,
8B.
8B is not a consent agenda.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, so it was motioned by Trustee Wilson. I will second, and can I get roll call, please?
President Polito,
Aye.
Trustee Wilson,
Aye.
Trustee Guyona,
Aye.
Trustee Shibomihi.
Aye.
Okay, great. Motion carries 4-0, and we are a 4-0 team until we appoint someone new. So we do want to let everybody know that Trustee Fitch is no longer with us. So everyone is present tonight, and we are looking to fill that seat. And I just want to remind everyone and anyone who's watching that the deadline to submit an application to be an appointed trustee is tomorrow. So
Oh,
yes, so we encourage anyone in the public who's interested in applying or letting anyone they know that might be interested as well. But the deadline is tomorrow. So, all right, we approved the agenda and we are going to go into closed session. But I'm going to ask any members of the public who wish to speak on closed session matters to please do so now. So if you would like to speak, please raise your hand, and our Director of Technology will call on you.
No one is raising their hand.
Alrighty, so then we will go into closed session at 6:50 and return at approximately 7:15 p.m. Thank you.
okay.
Do we have everybody back? No? Okay.
And Trustee Guillaume Mendoza is missing.
I don't see Trustee Shaboni.
Oh, here she is.
Okay. Okay, we're all back. So we are returning to open session at 7:16 p.m. And the changes to the agenda were that items 7B, G, and J were pulled from the consent agenda for discussion. And for item 3A, there was nothing to report. And for 3B, discussion was held. So that will now take us to item 5, which is the approval of minutes. And if there are no questions or comments, I will entertain a motion to approve item 5A.
Through the
Mr.
chair.
Chair,
Go ahead, Tam.
I'll make a motion to approve item 5A.
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call.
President Polito,
Aye.
Vice President Wilson,
Aye.
Trustee Guyona,
Aye.
Trustee Shabomahine.
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries 4-0. And now we will, I'll entertain a motion to approve item 5B, which are also meeting minutes for October 29th, the special board meeting.
Through the chair, I'll make a motion to approve item 5B.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
President Polito,
Aye.
Vice President Wilson,
Aye.
Trustee Guyona,
Aye.
Trustee Shabomahine.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0, so it is approved. Okay, that will take us to item 6, which is from the floor. At this time, we invite the public, if they would like to speak before the board, to do so now and raise your hand so Solomon Hill can call on you. You have 2 minutes to speak on any item that is not agendized tonight. And although the board cannot engage or take any action, we are here to listen and direct staff for follow-up. So if you would like to speak, please raise your hand.
No hands are raised. So I believe no speakers from the floor.
Okay. Just as a reminder, we have a Spanish translation is available. If you click on the interpretation button, hay traducción en español, está disponible. Si oprime el botón de interpretación, puede oír esta junta en español. So just a reminder for anyone who is not aware. Okay, let's move on to the consent agenda. And we will start with Trustee Wilson, who wanted to pull some items for discussion.
Correct. Thank you. I have some questions on, well, a question and then a statement on some of them. So on the first one, Bellhaven.
That's item 7B.
Yes. Superintendent, I realize that these are pretty much kind of a cut and paste kind of thing, but let's be accurate. So if you look on page 1 of the description of Bellhaven, it doesn't have a number in the total population that are economically disadvantaged. It has X's there. And likewise, on the second paragraph, strategies and programs, it's not Willow, it should be Bellhaven, correct?
Correct.
Okay, good. That's that one. On Castano, I have a question. On the goals, the 2 goals are to, the second goal is to communicate with parents to enhance through utilization of Parent Square, updated website and use of social media. And under the current practices, it's gonna be, it says that social media presence has established with a limited parent participation. So my question is, since we just entered into an agreement with Street Code to do that tech kind of support for families, are these families gonna be targeted and referred to them?
I would have to defer that question to Cindy, but it would make logical sense to
Right.
target those families. And the safety plans, right, were pretty much drafted and approved by the school site councils at that school after the agreement, I believe, of street code. I might
Okay.
have that timing off, but it makes logical sense to follow up with those families.
Right, that's what I was that's what I was thinking, because again, we always want to be effective with the services that we're providing. So if we're providing that level of support for the families, we definitely need to target those families, and that would address, you know, that reaching that goal. Okay? On Los Robles, same thing, on the second goal. It says that the current practice is a basic understanding of Big 5 San Mateo County. And you're going to review that with the action steps, or to review it with the staff and the Learning Hub partners. But my question is, are the kids going to be taught the stuff about the emergency?
So
Does
they're-
it say anything about training the kids or?
Well, they are still to go over the emergency procedures, especially with the kids being on campus. So the main goal is to teach the staff, and then the staff conduct the emergency drills. Cindy, do you want to add?
Correct. The Boys and Girls Clubs have reached out to see what the proposed plans are for the safety plans for the regular school day, so that they can mirror those for their learning hubs.
Oh, good. Okay. And the last one, RMS. I didn't, looking at the second goal, looking at the goals, the first one about reducing vaping, I didn't realize that vaping was such a huge problem at RMS. I'm kind of asking that.
Yeah, I don't have the specific data numbers, but vaping is a general concern for middle school age kids. And yes, we do have students who need support with that.
Wow. Okay. So again, we have all these support partner agencies on campus. Can we target kids?
Yeah, we have a referral system that we can do
Okay.
with Health Right 360
Mm-hmm.
in order to target students who have more needs regarding substance abuse. We also have staff who are trained on what's called brief intervention. So it's not to the level of a substance abuse kind of counselor, but something that staff can do to try and work through with students about really for students who are in the early stages of kind of testing what different substances are.
Okay. So that was, thank you. So that was all my questions. Again, you know, a concern with making sure that we're effectively using the supports that we have. So thank you.
So if you are,
Do you want me to do the other one and then do this, or?
no, we can approve it as you go.
Okay. So then would you like me to make a motion that we approve of 7B?
Yes.
Okay, I'll make that motion that we approve of 7B, the school site safety plans.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Yes, President Polito,
Aye.
Vice President Wilson,
Aye.
Trustee Guyona,
Aye.
Trustee Shibomahi,
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 4-0. That takes us to 7G, Trustee Wilson.
Okay, and 7G is the audio. Is that the audio person? F.
I believe so.
Yeah. So this is my question. It says here that there's no fiscal impact. How can there be no fiscal impact if we're reducing somebody from 12 months to 11 months? They still get the same pay?
That's correct. There's just fewer work days. The salary is the same.
Oh, okay. Logically, that doesn't make sense to me, but okay. I mean, I was like, wait, how can we reduce them by a month, but we don't save a penny? Sorry, so that was it.
All right. So I will entertain a motion to approve this item.
So I'll make that motion that we approve of the updated job description for the audiovisual coordinator.
I second.
Roll call, please.
President Polito,
Aye.
Vice President Wilson,
Aye.
Trustee Guyona,
Aye.
Trustee Shibomahi.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. All right, so that takes us to your final item, Trustee Wilson, 7J.
7J. Oh, right. So this is my question. The terms of this say that it shall be for 18 months. Takes 1.5 years to drill holes?
No, we think it'll take less. It's just a little bit of precaution in case something goes wrong or there's an extension. We imagine the actual drilling will be done relatively quickly. It was just more for convenience on the part of Menlo Park's parts, just given the pandemic and sort of the variability in planning right now.
Okay, so then my follow-up question is that, does this prohibit us from continuing to explore options?
Not at all. Keeps all of our options completely open. It's more, does this give us more options down the road? That's all we're exploring right now.
Okay, that was my question.
We'll then entertain a motion to approve.
So
7J.
then I will, through the chair, make a motion to approve of 7J, the agreement with the city of Menlo Park to drill a test. This says a test. It's probably going to be more, but anyway, for a flood on the flood site.
Second it.
Okay, roll call, please.
President Polito,
Aye.
Vice President Wilson,
Aye.
Trustee Guyona,
Aye.
Trustee Shibomahi.
I actually have a question. I'm sorry. I was going to say it, but like it happened really fast. Just really quickly. Sorry, Mr. Eager. On the term number 6, can I do that? Can I stop the vote? Or is that President Polito? Is that appropriate?
You know, we'll let you ask a question.
I'm sorry.
Can we see the difficulty of the question before we decide that?
Like, no, I'm confused by the term. So it says the term of this agreement shall be for 18 months from the effective date or until the completion of the activity, the permitted activity, whichever is later. So that's just interesting because the completion could happen before 18 months.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just trying to understand. So is it still saying that even if it's done somehow, I don't know what all, it wouldn't make sense that there would continue to be an agreement, but because I don't know, I don't know. That's just weird to me.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
I don't have a good answer for that. I think they're looking to drill 2 holes relatively quickly, and the intention is to give them flexibility. I don't. Once the holes are drilled, sort of period of access is over.
Okay.
We can bring this back to them. It's not. I don't think this isn't necessarily urgent or time sensitive. So if we want to fix that, I think that'd be easy to bring back to them.
Yeah. Outside of that, like I'm totally. I'm for it. You have my vote. I just didn't understand that or why it would need to be later than the time after you've completed the activity. That didn't make any sense to me. But Outside of that, my vote is aye.
I think it was more, it's not necessarily like after the activity, it's just the completion of the activity, right? So
Yeah.
it's when they're done, or 18 months. It's sort of, I think it gives them 18 months plus the assumption that they'll drill a hole. I suppose it is written in such a way that if they were to take longer than 18 months, this would sort of give them bonus time, which I don't think will be an issue, but I think it's worth flagging for them if we want to bring it back to them and have them change it.
I would suggest flagging it and then somehow addressing that if other board trustees were okay with that, and then moving ahead with it, after you change that to something more appropriate. I don't know.
So through the chair, as the maker of the motion, I'd like to withdraw the motion then, because I think you made a good point. I missed that later on when I was reading it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that definitely needs to be clarified, and I would put in there a proposed schedule. So this should be brought back, I think.
We've never had a motion be withdrawn, so I don't even know if we're following the process.
But we can
Why don't
all
you vote it
vote
down and I'll bring it back in a week.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we can all vote it down and then he has to bring it back, yeah.
Okay, so the motion's been withdrawn, even though it already was in action, so I think that, I mean, we can bring it back. I just don't know technically how to move forward, so we're gonna just.
Well, did we vote on it? We haven't voted on it yet.
Yeah, 3 of us voted on it already.
Oh.
It was like an motion.
No,
That's true.
oh,
No, I think Trustee Wilson only made a motion.
right.
Trustee Shabomi was the last one to
Oh,
vote.
yeah, you were voting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I suppose that it hasn't formally completed the vote. I mean, we're probably gonna have to ask our lawyers moving forward how to work around this. I'm okay with it coming back to have more specific language. So, and then I'll check in with our lawyer for future reference on how to manage.
I apologize for not stopping it beforehand. It happened so fast. I'm sorry.
No worries. It's actually a good catch. So, thank
Yeah,
you.
it was.
All right. So we will table this for our next meeting. Okay. So then that is the end of the items that were pulled from consent agenda. So that leaves us with our remaining consent agenda, and I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
A second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
President Polito,
Aye.
Vice President Wilson,
Aye.
Trustee Guyona,
Aye.
Trustee Shabomaheen.
Aye. Don't
No, I'm kidding.
Motion carries 4-0. Yay. All right. Okay, so we are now under the section of Superintendent's Office, and we're going to kick that off with item 8.8, which is Distance Learning and School Improvement Working Group update.
Great. Solomon, if I have the access to share screen. Okay. President Polito, if you see, oh, that's the wrong one. Give me a second. Oh, no, this is it. Do you see the presentation in front of you? Okay. Great. Okay, thank you. So we are bringing to you an update on
Superintendent,
yes.
I don't see the presentation. We see the next item.
Oh, thank you. Here?
Might be on the wrong screen.
Let me try that again. Tony?
There we go.
Good.
Okay. Great. So yes, we'll be bringing to you, staff and I, an update from our most recent School Improvement Working Group meeting that was held on Tuesday. And then, yeah, be able to provide some perspectives that the team has had from our conversation and discussion. So we're bringing to you an update on planning to bring urgent learners back to campus, as well as giving you an update on the testing and safety protocols and attendance and engagement with distance learning. And again, the perspectives from our school improvement working group team is embedded in this presentation. So first, bringing urgent learners back to campus. As it may be obvious, we are not ready to open up school due to the positivity rates of our city. And in light of also our county moving to the red tier, and many of our surrounding counties are now in purple. However, we do have some urgent learners who the school improvement working group has identified who do need to come back. Distance learning is not working for them. We wanted to give you perspectives of people closest to this before designing any plans, of course. And so we have had some informal conversations with staff, and we are currently in the process of reaching out to urgent learner parents first before starting to design and develop any type of return to campus plan, and really to learn about the demands that we need to consider. So there are teachers who are willing to come back in person under the current conditions. And considering that, we do want to make sure we start small and continuing to learn throughout this process and with each other. So we're going to pilot, and we plan to pilot with some of our urgent learners. As you know, it's easier to get it right with a smaller group and willing staff. And we will similarly follow the approach that we did with learning hubs. And we want to start with a smaller number of classrooms and sites, and then consider growing. So because we have learning hubs, there's already an option for students who need more supervision to be on campus. We plan to design a return campus plan drawing from our current recovery plan that the board has already reviewed and approved. And of course, we will need to modify those plans based on the number of students we have, and obviously the current circumstances that we're constantly learning about. So our current proposal is to offer urgent learners the option to return to campus. And our goal date is January 25th. Our urgent learners are newcomers. They're students with moderate to severe special needs, and we would potentially start with preschool and our TK through fifth grade. I'm sorry, K through fifth grade. And then our urgent learners who are in grades TK, kindergarten, and first grade. And we want to pilot with this grade level specifically as much as we can across all elementary schools, but we may not be able to do so depending on the demand from parents and then willing staff. And again, we want to make sure though too that we start small, similarly like we did with the learning hubs, where we started with one pod, a couple of pods at Los Robles, and then went to Castaño, and then went to Bellhaven and RMS.
Good evening, everyone. We have talked with the board about bringing back our moderate to severe students, but in that process of talking with staff, we started to learn that there were some significant needs for our mild to moderate students as well. And in talking with staff, we do have some staff who might be interested in bringing some of our mild to moderate students back on campus for some on-campus learning. So we wanted to bring that to the board to consider as an option. And that would look a little bit more like our learning hubs, but for our students with mild to moderate needs. So these are our students who have a specific learning disability and struggle with reading and writing, and distance learning is proving to be a huge challenge for these students. One of our teachers shared that she struggles with providing wait time because the student's camera may be off, and so she doesn't know while she's waiting what they're struggling with. And when you're a teacher in person, you have all of those visual cues that you're working with. And we lose all of those visual cues, even with their camera on. We don't know exactly what's getting in the way for our students. Is it the technology? Is it the question? And there's some real struggles there. So we do have some teachers who are interested in providing like a learning hub environment on campus for our students with mild to moderate needs. And what that would look like is our special education teacher could come in, have the students on their caseload in their classroom with them, and they would do their distance learning while their special ed teacher was there to support them, whether it's a tech issue, whether it's an academic understanding issue, or they just need some visuals or something described. So we wanted to bring that to the board as an additional consideration for our urgent learner populations. We don't know exactly what that would look like. We wanted to get direction from the board. And once we get direction from the board, we want to talk with our teachers to see if they're interested and have them help us build a schedule. Because if our teachers are coming on campus, we want them very much invested in that process. Gina, could you move the slide forward for me? All right, so we wanted to talk a little bit about what we're hearing from staff, and I think I'm going to go first in terms of my conversations with staff. So one more slide. So I've spoken with all of our moderate to severe teachers and all of our para twos who work with our moderate to severe students. And every single staff member I talked to in that category, with the exception of one, is interested in exploring the idea of coming back. Some are an emphatic yes, and some are maybe, but these are the safety precautions that I want to see in place. We all know that it's a significant struggle for our students with moderate to severe needs. The case managers are asking parents to see if they're interested in coming back. Many of our parents are saying yes, but having the same concern. Yes, but what are the safety precautions? So once we get further direction, we want to work on planning together with our moderate to severe teachers. It looks very different in 8th grade than it does in preschool. So we want to build programs that really meet the particular needs of our students with moderate to severe needs. We want to do this well, and we want to do this safely. And in order to do it well and safely, we need to be slow and cautious. So some things like bringing 1 or 2 students on campus a time so they get used to, like, these are our procedures. This is how we take care of ourselves. This is how we move around the classroom to our seat, and get students reacclimated to the school environment, because our students with moderate severe needs have been out for a while and we want to get them acclimated to school. So that's kind of how the conversations have gone thus far with our staff, parents, and teachers. Gina, did you want to talk about the teachers you've spoken with?
Yeah, so I personally spoke with a newcomer teacher at the elementary level, and their response was an emphatic yes, and definitely wants to come back. It's really challenging, you know, to instruct English language learners who've never spoke English, using context clues, not being able to use body language, and any other resources at hand to be able to communicate with their children, with the students. And so they're on board to come back in person. We have a TK teacher, and he's willing to come back. In addition, we already heard back from all of his families, his students' families, and they are also willing to come back. He has 10 students, and they all want to come back. From a kindergarten teacher, they would like to come back, but more so with the hybrid model, and would like to weigh in on the model, but would like to start right now. Generally, teachers would feel more comfortable if positivity rate was lower in general. And at the school improvement working group session, I did share out some other feedback from other districts, like La Honda Pescadero High School District, where children are leaving their cars excitedly wanting to come onto campus. And then we also have reports from Menlo Park. Despite the concerns, they've been able to manage the risks. Now, they do have lower positivity rate, and we must take that into consideration. But we do have teachers willing to come, and more importantly, it's because it's very challenging to teach these urgent learners remotely. Trying to teach students how to read virtually for our younger students has posed to be a challenge, and we see that in our beginning of the year data. We'll move into testing and safety protocols. And again, I'm taking notes here, but please write down your questions, and looking forward to a lively conversation afterwards. But moving on to our testing protocols here. Again, just setting the context here is that we do have urgent learners and staff and students willing to return, and considering even the current conditions. And we hope by January 25th, after winter break, and we have a few weeks for we most likely will see some spikes, and we see that going on right now, but hopefully by January 25th, those numbers have settled down. So we have to assume that city positivity rate is unlikely going to get any better by January 25th, as it stands now. And we need to explore under what COVID positivity conditions we'd be ready to bring more students back on campus beyond urgent learners. So regardless of timeline, we still have to plan. We can't be sitting back on our heels. And I recall, Trustee Polito, you gave staff direction on making sure that we have a plan in place so that when we have a green light, we can execute. It's determining when we flip, when we're no longer in yellow, in slow-mo, like as we're moving towards the urgent learners, and no longer in red for the rest of the school community. It's when we all can have a green light to be on campus. We want to be prepared for that. So we're really honing in and studying, how effective the safety protocols are at the learning hubs and what is working. And the masks and social distancing has proven to be working at the learning hubs. I visited the YMCA learning hub, and students have their masks on majority of the time. There's temperature checks. They're doing symptoms checks as well. Some learning hubs are doing the symptoms checks in person, and some are doing using a Google form to ask parents whether or not their children have symptoms. There's bubbles of 10 to 12 students with 1 to 2 adults. There's designated areas for each bubble when outside the classroom, and each hub has a place where students can be isolated if they develop any type of symptoms during the day, until their family can pick them up. And then our maintenance team provides the regular cleaning. So here I'll go ahead and start the video first, and you can take a peek. I always do this. Let me stop sharing and make sure the sound is working. Here we go. This is our staff testing with the curative. So we're going to get an example of what it's like.
Ravenswood, Gina here, going to do the COVID testing right outside of HR. I am going to first start by coughing in my arm 3 times. All right, I'm going to go inside now. Follow me. Lupe, are you ready for me?
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay, so.
Please help me here. You know it's my second time.
Okay, let's open it up. Okay, and then you're going to swab under your mask.
Mm-hmm.
Your cheeks, inside of each cheek. Upper lip.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom lip.
Mm-hmm.
Under the tongue.
Okay.
On the tongue and the roof of your mouth.
Okay.
Now you want to hold it there while you pull out the little tube. Collect some more saliva. And then go ahead and put it in there.
Right inside.
Mm-hmm. Break off the extra plastic there. We have our little garbage can here.
Okay.
Put the lid.
3 times back and forth.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
Into the little package it goes, and our plastic baggie. Make sure it's sealed. And into our lab box.
I'm done.
Yay.
All right, 72 hours or less. Come on, Ravenswood, show up, get tested. Ravenswood.
So we wanted to demonstrate that because this is the third week that we've implemented that HR has orchestrated this for the entire district at the school sites and in central office for Ravenswood staff to get tested. This is my third week. Thursdays are days I go into this process, do this process. And at first you get a little nervous because you want to make sure you do it right. And it only took me, I think, like 2 minutes this time around. So you get faster and faster as you do it. And the results, I take the test on Thursday and I typically get it on Monday. And I believe Tony, correct me, once the lab gets it, it's usually 72 hours once the lab receives the test.
That's right, 48 to 72 hours.
Yeah. And it's very convenient. It gets reported to your phone or to your email. I get a lot of emails, so I like it having it pop on my phone and I could just click on the link and see my status. And it's reassuring that my current practices at work and at home reassure me that I am doing things that keep me safe. And that's more important, is it's a status check to make sure our activities not only keep our family safe, but colleagues and students safe. So we have a surveillance testing for all Ravenswood staff, yet for Learning Hub staff, we don't have that quite set in place. But Tony does share with the Learning Hubs when the city of East Palo Alto conducts their free testing at the Y. So testing is ultimately going to be required for staff, but we really want them to understand the value and importance. Don't want to make it mandated, but it is required. And so we want to send out this video to just reassure that it's an easy process. You get the results directly along with HR, and we can keep in tune with how our employees are doing. So County Council has informed us that as an employer, we have a legal obligation to mitigate the risk of COVID-19 and the spread. And one of the mitigation tools is surveillance testing, and it is a condition of employment. So we also want parents and students to do it as well. And this video hopefully will encourage them as well in our newsletter to go get tested. It's actually a lot easier too at the Y. You get to stay in your car. So there were some, recommendations that the working group suggested to increase and influence testing adoption. And one of them was, let's have staff adjust and select the testing days, because we did base their schedule on their original dates that they told their principals they were coming. Or also here in HR or in central office, staff is informing what days actually work best for people to come in. And so we do want to make some adjustments there. We want to continue using word of mouth so people hear from trusted relationships like the office staff, friends and colleagues, even churches and partnering organizations about the effectiveness of the testing, why to test, the importance of testing. And then obviously those are the key messages. Also that it doesn't hurt, it's quick, and it's free. So, and I want to actually talk about this, make it clear that testing is needed before schools and can reopen. That's communication that we did share at the School Improvement Working Group. Tony, do you mind touching upon this a little bit more? Because we did reach out to County Council and we received clarification on this.
Sure. So I just want everybody to understand that we cannot require our students to submit to testing. They have a constitutional right to a public education, so we cannot refuse to give them that education because they don't submit to testing. We can, however, encourage them and provide it for them. And also they can elect to share their results directly with HR, just like our employees are required to do. So we will, of course, offer that, but I just want to make sure everybody understands we can't force our kids.
Thank you, Tony. So we do have several subcommittees of the School Improvement Working Group, and this Friday, the School Improvement Working Group members are to finalize which committees they would like to participate in. And the COVID Testing and Monitoring Committee, which also includes a pediatrician from the Ravenswood Family Health Center. I'm appreciative of Dr. Chaya participating. We are going to be hosting these meetings upon our return from Thanksgiving break, but this committee will definitely be responsible for exploring several questions and making recommendations to the group around how do we make, coming back on campus safer during these conditions. And then what criteria will we use to decide when to bring back more students and staff. Okay, so we'll touch upon a little bit now about our distance learning, focusing on attendance and engagement. And we'll be able to share some information right now. Cindy will talk about some data around attendance first.
Yeah, in the early presentations, in the early presentations around distance learning, I provided snapshots for attendance on certain days. And so I just wanted to continue that. So what you see here is the percentage for attendance on the first Fridays of the month. You can see, from the first day of school to the, to November 6th, we've just been progressively getting better in terms of kids showing up to class, getting credit for being in class for either synchronous or asynchronous attendance. But at the same time, we recognize that it's not just about attendance, right? We really also need to look at how are kids engaging. And so Laura's going to comment on that.
Right, I want to emphasize before Laura begins that the engagement protocols are new practices for our teacher in terms of how we're doing all of this documentation. And it is a state requirement, and there's more complicated forms that should be used. We have streamlined the information, but it's still really challenging in terms of the idiosyncrasies and constant inputting of data on a daily basis. And so we'll share with you, Lada will share with you how TK5, for example, tracks the engagement data.
Sure, thank you, Gina and Cindy. So what you see here is a screenshot of an example TK to 5 weekly attendance and engagement spreadsheet. So this spreadsheet would have the students' names in the class down the left-hand side. And then for each day of the week, the teacher has the opportunity to indicate if the student participated fully, partially, or not at all in synchronous and asynchronous learning. And the reason to track it this way is to try to get a sense of the amount of participation over the course of a week. In sort of the most concerning group, we're looking at students who are missing more than 60% of instruction in a week. And then beyond that, we want to get a sense of the range of participation. And so teachers are able to select in the drop-down menu, full, partial, or none for synchronous and asynchronous learning for each day. And then the spreadsheet on the right side actually gives you the percentage participation across the week for both synchronous and asynchronous learning. So in this example, you can see that synchronous participation is higher than asynchronous participation. And that matches what we've heard anecdotally from teachers as well. So it's useful to have this data to look at a system level to see how our students are doing and then think about how to respond. And then it also helps us fulfill that state requirement around tracking attendance and engagement in distance learning. The tracking system for 6-8 is a little different, with students attending different periods in the day or in the week with different teachers in different subject areas. And this example,
can you see? I'm trying to hide the names of students too.
Yeah, so from the teacher perspective, what they do is they track the synchronous participation by marking attendance in Infinite Campus as they would if the students were in person. And then they use their grade book to score assignments that are submitted as part of asynchronous work. And then those two data points put together are painting a picture of the students' overall engagement.
Right. It's a pretty complex document, which I'm really proud of the middle school and how they're tracking all of this information, because they have so many adults to students. The ratio to adult to student is in our favor. And so it's really important that there's a centralized location of information that staff can refer to. I know Tammin, Trustee Wilson, and Trustee Shabomahim were at this meeting as well, but there's different notes here. There's also at the bottom, sorry, I'm trying to be very vague, not to show the student information, but there's a call log, there's data analysis, you have newcomers, and then you have notes about what are next steps for specific staff to take to address students who need that re-engagement. So at this point, we need to figure out how to get good at collecting the data and also having the data reflect accurate information. So it is challenging because these are templates on top of everything else that teachers are trying to figure out. And it's a daily task in addition to not only the synchronous learning and tracking their attendance and tracking their engagement, it's also where they are tracking student work and completion and then documenting that, because like Lara said, it's the synchronous and the asynchronous engagement that we're trying to track to create a percentage of whether or not they're participating 60% or more of the time. We are currently trying to figure out with Infinite Campus if we can streamline the data entry and have some drop-down menus to say either synchronous or asynchronous, partial, full, or none at all, so that there's one location where all of our data is being stored. So one of the strategies that we want to put in place potentially is to encourage and make sure it's well known that perhaps teachers block off some time during their schedule to just remind them that they need to dedicate the focus on tracking this information. We need to improve our student engagement, and there's some feedback that we received from principals during the school improvement working group on Tuesday, and so I'll have some of our staff here report out on behalf of our principals, starting with middle school.
Hi everyone, I am going to be reporting out what Principal Kemp shared with us at the School Improvement Working Group. The staff at the middle school are working on more engaging strategies for during school times to keep our middle school students engaged. For our most critical students, the staff there are trying to do home visits to see if they can figure out exactly how they can help and what families might need. Our teachers are doing phone calls home, and they are making recommendations for who should be in the next round of learning hubs for our students who need that more structured environment. The family outreach person is doing classes for parents to help the parents learn how to use the technology to see how students' grades are and to learn how to use their Google Classroom to see what their children have still to do to turn in. They have learned at the middle school that they can't really give kids a big break in the middle of the day. They've found that if they take a break in the middle of the day for lunch, they have more struggles getting students back online after lunch. So they're putting all the academics and the more serious classes in the morning to try and get as much instruction in as possible. They're trying to work on the best time for office hours and encouraging students to attend office hours so that they can get the help that they need. There are some areas that they're working on improving. They're hoping to help kids bring up their grades because it is a struggle. There is some typical middle school behavior happening in that kiddos realize, oh, it's the end of the trimester, so I need to turn everything in. So kids are trying to race to turn in all of their work. So teachers have big stacks of grading because kids are still learning how to manage their time more independently. The teachers are also working really hard. We talk about I do, we do, you do, and the I do, where the teacher's doing the work, is going well, and the we do is going well. But when we release the students for independent work, that's a struggle, especially since our middle school kiddos are young, and it's really hard to keep a structure when there's so much distraction around them. So that's pretty much what the middle school had to share about what's going on with them. So I'm going to turn it over now to Will, who's going to talk about Castaño.
Thanks, Jen. So highlighting some things that Castaño is doing to improve engagement. A couple of things to highlight. The first sort of set of things that they're doing similar to the middle school is regular calls home, robocalls. Campus relation teams are really sort of tracking data, looking at engagement sheets, teacher by teacher, and then sort of making calls, sort of a dedicated activity on Tuesdays and Thursdays to kids who are appearing to drop or see sort of decreases in engagement. One thing they tried earlier in the year, I think had some good results, was they were partnering with the transportation department to bring people out to homes to check in on kids, make sure things are going all right. Sort of the final thing to highlight here, similar to the middle school, is the afternoon is just a little bit more of a struggle. The morning's going well, great morning attendance, but then there's a big drop off after lunch. So one thing that the team's doing over there that I think is really clever is they're thinking about, what's the schedule look like? And so, for example, if math is always in the afternoon and kids are dropping off in the afternoon, you're seeing a little bit of a drop off in math engagement. So how can you rework that schedule to make sure you're getting sort of core instruction happening in the morning? And as part of that, can you think about if it's, I think it's tougher for all of us to be on Zoom in the afternoon. Can you rework the schedule a bit so that you're not relying on Zoom as much in the afternoon and relying on sort of other ways for students and families to engage? I'm going to hand it over to Cindy, who's going to talk through Belhaven.
Belhaven has some similar strategies as Castaño in terms of, they had surveyed their staff and got some feedback about what things they should try and fix. So one of them was the schedule, because they noticed that, more kids were attending during the morning. And so they're going to look at changing their schedule for the second trimester. Additionally, they have their staff dropping off materials to students if they haven't picked them up. They do 3 days a week for material pickup, and tie that around the food distribution so that they can try and make sure that they're capturing as many families as possible with the, not only with academic needs, but also with, then also with their food needs. And then they were also doing a lot of the phone calls, using their different support staff that they have in order to reach out to the different families. One area they're still working on is to how to address some families who don't live close to the area right now because they may be experiencing homelessness. And so they've moved, they're in a spot that's not close to the school. So it's a little bit harder to drop off materials to those families. And so we'll coordinate with them to make sure that we can get materials to those families. And then Solomon's going to share about Los Robles Ronald McNair Academy.
Can you hear me clearly? Okay. So Principal Quezada from the great Los Robles Ronald McNair Academy had some similar issues, but they realized that they were collecting a wide range of student data from student work, including paper, pencil, digital work. But at first they couldn't really identify a pattern. Sometimes the work lots of work was turned in, others not, and they couldn't really figure out why, but they discovered that as this teacher and student relationships strengthened, that students were better able to communicate what their needs were and what the difficulties were. And that relationship was missing in the beginning of the year. So as time went on, students were more comfortable saying, I didn't understand what I needed to do, or parents were in quarantine, so they couldn't get help they needed to finish assignments. And teachers, in addition, over time, have gotten better at asking questions from the students about why work wasn't submitted. So students are communicating better and teachers are responding better, essentially. So an example he gave is that teachers have responded by giving small groups, by putting students into smaller groups to give them more time to get help on their work assignment so teachers can focus. So, you know, a student says, I need help with this assignment. Can I come to office hours? Digital, of course. Teachers say yes. Here's the Zoom room, and they can work together on a certain paragraph or a math problem, and that's work for them. Also, the schools started to suspect that families are often take the mornings off of work and are more available to help their kids in the morning, but have to go back to work in the afternoon. So they're hoping to get better data by asking parents some of those more personal questions and asking them in a sensitive manner. And that's it.
Yeah, thank you, team. Principals are working hard on trying to figure out the magic recipe, the sauce, to bring students back. And so, yeah, we're trying to figure out reasons for engagement and disengagement and what's working and what strategies are able to bring students to the screen, turn on their screen and participate, and then what is causing that disengagement. And so what we learned from a survey specifically that one elementary school did was that there is screen fatigue. And then it might be that links are not working. And then just overall students are tired. So the School Improvement Working Group went into small groups and brainstormed some more ideas. And what we learned pretty much though is that these are recommendations that some schools or all are doing. And what we really need to do is refine some of these recommendations or strategies that we're already working on, and learning more about which one is more effective, or maybe all of them, right? But it's constantly getting this data and reflecting on it, and that is part of our MTSS work that we're also looking at. All right. That was a lot of information. Any questions? And I do want to go back to when Jennifer Gravin was presenting around getting direction from the board, Trustee Polito, on learning hubs for special education students.
Thank you for that presentation. Do you want to exit from the screen share? There you go. All right, there are all the faces. All right, this is an opportunity for board members to ask questions or make any statements regarding the presentation. And I know they're also seeking guidance regarding some of the hubs to bring moderate to severe learning needs. And I think I see Trustee Wilson.
Yes.
Attempting to speak, so.
Thank you. My question is on the, first, I do think that we should bring the special need kids back. I do think, you know, we put in the right protocols. We should, in fact, have them back on campus. My question is on the students, on the testing issue. If there's a student, we can't make them get tested, but if there's a student that comes to school and doesn't want to be tested, or parents don't want them to be tested, do we have to allow them into the bubble, or can they be put somewhere else?
Did you want me to take that one, Superintendent? Okay. Yeah, they do have to be allowed to participate in the educational opportunities. So we can't separate them from the class.
Why can't you have a class of all kids who aren't tested?
Oh, you could, yeah, you could do that.
Yeah, because it defeats the purpose. If you have a bubble and you're trying to keep all those kids safe and one kid doesn't want to get tested, they shouldn't be allowed in that bubble then.
But wait, okay, so step one, I don't think we can isolate children, but I do know that a lot of districts are asking questions about symptoms, taking temperatures, and based on that, they are saying, yes, you can come on campus or you have to go home.
Right,
Right?
that's right. Okay.
You can't make someone get tested if they are showing symptoms or have a temperature, high temperature. You know, the district does have the right to say, you know, you should stay home for a couple of days or whatnot if they don't want to get tested. I think most protocols are actually not allowing staff or students that are showing any symptoms that fail the questionnaire or that test a temperature higher than what is normal. So we wouldn't need to isolate kids in a different bubble because if they are symptomatic, they'd not be able to be on campus.
But if they're asymptomatic is my point. If they're asymptomatic and they don't want to take the test, and I'm not saying to deny the child education, I'm asking whether they can be put in another bubble with the other kids that don't want to be tested.
But I think the bubbles are based on grades and needs. So how would you manage separating out these students that don't want to get tested and they're not showing any symptoms?
I mean, I just think that it's sort of like, I mean, it defeats the purpose. If we allow kids who aren't tested, I mean, we're supposed to be trying to protect our kids. So we put them in this bubble. And then if a person comes and they don't want to be tested, I don't think it's fair that they should expose everybody to that. And again, I'm not saying to deny the child education. I'm just saying, and I'm not saying to put them in a separate room by themselves. I'm saying to create a new bubble for them. And that's a question. I'm not making a statement. It's something that you need, that the district should really think about seriously.
There's definitely going to be the need to look at the makeup of the classes, especially if teachers who are willing to come back, not their whole entire class doesn't want to. And so we'll have to be creative in how students, half the class is synchronous, half the class is in person. What will that actually look like? So there's still a lot of logistics to work out when it comes to the classroom makeup. But ultimately,
sounds like we're already dealing with the shortage of people that are able to be on campus. So creating subgroups of the groups will probably be very challenging. I do think we need to implement daily health screenings, right? We have to do the questionnaires, we have to do temperature checks, we have to do all the protocols that are required by the pandemic framework of the San Mateo County Office of Education. I do think we need to be very rigorous and diligent about doing things. I think it might be a distraction and a challenge to put kids into a separate group who refuse to be tested when they're not symptomatic.
Well,
I feel like parents would have.
Well,
and I think they would rightfully have a.
Right. I was going to say, because I, as a parent, if I say, okay, I want my child to be back on campus, and then I find out that other kids are coming on campus without being tested, then I'm either going to pull my kid out and then rather keep them home. So I'm just saying that that's something that needs to really be considered. You know, it's sort of like if you have, well, I'll just leave it like that. And it won't be my problem after a month, but yeah, you guys need to really think seriously about that.
Yeah, and we definitely want to. I also want to emphasize the need to encourage our families and what our strategies are going to be to make sure they understand the importance of surveillance testing. Push that really hard.
And through the chair.
Yes.
To that point, Superintendent Sadaria, I do think it is also then wise, or it would be good to let families know the conditions of our testing, meaning we are not requiring people to get tested, because then I think a parent, number one, should understand that in making the decision to choose to take their child back to school, to put them in a setting where we are not allowed to, or we, have to let anyone in, if they pass the, the test of showing symptoms, whatever the conditions are. So parents need to just understand both. They need to be encouraged to test, and they also it needs to be clear that their children could be in a space with other students who are asymptomatic. So.
Right. And I know that we probably are going to have like a waiver that says, I understand that my student, and you're going to list off all these things like that my student is expected to show up with wearing a face mask, and, you know, if they're feeling sick, they're staying home, and we're encouraging you to get tested, but it's not required. But because it's not required, you know, there may be other students that are asymptomatic as well. You know, I think that parent information and education is important. So I think that's a great way of kind of approaching it. Trustee Wilson, was that your only comment or question, or did you have anything else? We can't hear you, you're muted.
Sorry, I'm muted again, sorry. Yeah, that was it. That was my only question.
Okay.
And that I agree that the urgent learners need to come back.
Okay. All right, other trustees?
I do have a question. So when these special education students come back, they're gonna be more like in in those hubs, right? Not in a class. And my question is, why can we not have them back to class? Since they're coming back and the special education teacher is gonna be there for them, it just seems to me kind of odd that they're gonna be in a hub, and they're still gonna be learning virtually. Did I get it right?
I'm sorry, maybe I didn't explain that quite correctly. So it would be similar to a hub, but it would be the special education teacher teaching the class. So like our students who are in resource classes, the special education teacher would be there and present, but they may be doing distance learning with their 4th grade general ed teacher while their special ed teacher is with them. So it would be similar to a hub, but not the same. It would be our own special ed teachers. Does that clarify? Okay.
Yes, but what about the severely disabled who are in special day class? Are they gonna be in the special education day class or learning virtually too?
They would not be learning virtually. That we had already moved forward with the moderate to severe students coming back with their teacher.
Right. Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you for the great question.
Thank you.
Trustee.
I have another question, really short, or really quick. Could you define newcomer?
Yes. Yeah. And Lara, correct me. They're students coming into the country within 1 year.
Who speak a language other than English as their first language and need very beginning English language development support.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, President Polito.
Absolutely. So it is music to my ears that I hear that teacher and staff members are willing and wanting to return on campus to help support our most at-need students. So I want to first say a big thank you to whoever those teachers were. I mean, I've really been wanting this, but I understand that we've been dealing with the complexities of this COVID-19 virus, and we've been trying to move in the most safe manner. So I'm really excited about that. I'm extremely excited about this. I wanted to get an idea, however, about how many students fall in those tiers. So about how many students would we be serving if we were to move forward?
We'll try to get those numbers right now for you. For our newcomers, Lara, are you familiar with how many we have in the elementary level and then how many at the middle school? Because we both newcomer teachers are willing to come back at the middle school level and elementary level.
I don't have the exact numbers at my fingertips, but I know for elementary in grades 3 through 5, we have about 15 students in the morning class and about 17 in the afternoon class. And then of those students, then the next step is to get a more precise number of the families who want their students to participate in in-person learning, because it may not be 100%. And then at the middle school level, we have more work to do around figuring out what the schedule would be like, because that teacher sees multiple periods of students. So it's a higher number overall.
And Jen, do you have the numbers for special education? Or Cindy, while she's looking up, do you have the enrollment for first?
Yeah, the enrollment for across the district for TK is a total of 26 students. For kindergarten, 146. First grade, 148.
And we already know that we're not going to be able to serve all of those students. First, not all of the families want to come back, because we've done a survey before as well. And we have a mixed bunch of, in terms of who's willing to come back in current conditions and who's not. But we've asked we're working on asking specifically the teachers of these classrooms. We're asking those students first, so we don't disrupt the classroom assignments at this time or create any other disruption at the school. So we're still collecting numbers for those number of students who are interested in coming back, for those teachers who are willing to come back.
Got it.
For special education, for moderate to severe preschool through 8th grade, it's 41 students. And then for our resource students, it would be very much dependent on the number of teachers coming back and then the space within the classroom to keep the 6 feet of distance.
So this is
I'm
all,
just on the research with that.
this is all well under 500. Well
Yes.
under. Okay.
Yes. And we have a student population of 1711, Cindy-ish.
1711.
14.
1,711.
14.
1,714 students. Do we have a number of students in our learning hubs off the top of your heads, Will or Cindy? At a ballpark.
Yes, let me multiply.
I was doing the same.
So,
4 sites of 3 pods with 12 kids each.
so even if you start with these severe, moderate newcomer students, we're still working towards expanding those groups and those populations as we move along, correct? This isn't like the plan for all of spring 2021 just to have those students. It's just to start off with those students and those teachers and work our way through that.
Yeah, and working with our school improvement working group to draft a metrics that would indicate when it's safe to come back for all of our school communities. But right now, so right now, our end goal is January 25th for our urgent learners.
Mm-hmm.
And then
But
under the current conditions,
urgent learners, but I just heard numbers for TK to first grade.
those are our urgent learners as well. So you have the newcomers,
Right.
students with moderate to severe needs,
Mm-hmm.
and then our other cohort is TK through first grade.
Oh, in addition to those other groups. Okay, I thought you guys were giving me, okay, that makes perfect sense, and that's actually even better. So TK through first grade, also moderate to severe groups, and also newcomers. Okay.
Dependent on willing
Availability. And I understand that as well. You know, if we don't have enough teachers in the classroom, there's, you know, we can't bring the students back in, but it's great to hear that we have teachers that are willing and wanting and able to come back. So that's really exciting news.
I'm sorry, my quick math is about close to 300 students in the learning hubs across all of the partners.
100 plus all these kids. Okay, we're moving on up on the amount of students we're serving. So that's good news. And then is there going to be crossover? As some of those students are already in these hubs, are they transitioning to the school hubs and then leaving spaces open for new students to potentially use the partner hubs?
So Cindy had brought up a good question, is that some of the in-person learning may only be a hybrid model where they're in person 2 days out of the week, which right now, a lot of families are benefiting from learning hubs being every day. So it will be a decision they'll have to make.
Okay. Well, it seems that the board is supportive of you all moving forward as of January 25th, I believe, and bringing these students back. Is there anything else you needed direction on?
There are
No,
speakers
yeah, we do have
on
some.
the item.
Okay. Is there anything else you needed direction on?
No, I don't believe so. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we can hear from our public. And
Rhonda White.
everyone
I'm promoting.
Everyone except union labor groups will have 2 minutes. Ms. Rhonda White is the president of our Teachers Union Association, and she has 5 minutes.
Good evening, President Pulido, Vice President Wilson, Trustee Shabomahim, and Guyana Mendoza, Superintendent Sudaria, colleagues, families, students, and the members of the community. My name is Rhonda White, and I'm the president of the Ravenswood Teacher Association. I am also a member of the Returning Schools Committee in my capacity as a union member. I am excited that the board and superintendent want a plan in place for when we can return to the school buildings. I want to address the suggested return date of January 25th, 2021. Let me first start by saying that distance learning is difficult for everyone, but especially for our students and families. And if it wasn't for this pandemic, we would all be in the school buildings. We also have a group of teachers, about 8 to 10, who are anxious and willing to come back in person and have been since August. I also understand that we have urgent learners that would do better in person, our students with special needs, our newcomers, and maybe even our youngest learners. However, coming back in the near future, or at least into a vaccine or the pandemic is in a better space, will look very different than what we are used to in the classroom. 6 feet social distancing, plexiglass, fast face masks, daily temperature checks, et cetera, et cetera. I do believe that we should have a plan, and we are taking the time to thoroughly plan for our return to schools, but I do not believe our target date should be January 25th, 2021 for urgent learners. The numbers in East Palo Alto have remained in the purple since August and was the reason that the school year was opened in distance learning versus in the brick and mortar buildings. Thanksgiving is next week. Christmas and winter break is then in 2 weeks. We know that a lot of families and students are either going to be traveling or having families in and out of the community. I know that the returning committee has decided to some kind of way tie the numbers or the decrease in numbers to a returning, but I would like to propose that we consider a new target date. Maybe for the 3rd trimester, maybe for not returning to school or maybe in this year, or maybe not a vaccine. This would allow for parents to plan accordingly and for teachers to continue to improve their various skills and knowledge on distance learning tools for engagement and educating our students. Let's be very clear. The teachers, we do not like distance learning. We hate that we are not in school with our students, but right now our first priority is safety. RTA will continue to work collaboratively with the district in the return to school plan to set up safety protocols and procedures so that we will be ready to return to school when the numbers are down. We are all urgently and anxiously wanting to get back to some sense of normalcy, but I don't believe that we should bring our urgent learners back at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Solomon, I believe.
Yep, there's another speaker.
We'll have 2.
It's Jenny Bloom. I'm promoting you, Jenny. You can speak.
Hi. So I just had a question for the urgent learners coming back and the teachers that will be in the classroom. I think someone mentioned it right at the end, that if we are in the learning hubs with our kids right now. They're going every day, but if we go back to the hybrid model, then our kids might not be in the actual classroom every day. So we would have to choose between the learning hub and like being with the teacher and with the class. The second question on top of that, I just want to ask is, if our kid is in the learning hub, will the teachers be doing the distance learning for the kids who are online along with teaching in the classroom, or will there be two separate teachers? So would kids who have been engaged with their teachers online have to go to a classroom with a different teacher who's live?
Yeah, these are good questions. I think we still need to work out what is going to be the protocol for families who have children in learning hubs who would like to also have them have in-person learning. I think that still needs to be worked out. I think it also depends on the demand of who wants to be in the learning hubs and who wants to be in-person, who wants to do the in-person learning. In regards to the second question, I believe the teachers, I'm open for the teachers who are willing to come back to explore the possibility about how to manage both. So for example, there are several districts surrounding us where, for example, Redwood City, they have about 20 teachers exploring different ways of doing it. So some have in-person learning in the morning while the students who are not in person are doing asynchronous work in the morning. And then the teacher has lunch, break, and then in the afternoon, the teacher does synchronous learning for those students who are at home in the afternoon, and the students that they had in the morning for in-person are doing asynchronous learning in the afternoon. Some teachers are exploring with an OWL device that follows the teacher around in the room, doing in-person learning at the same time while students at home doing synchronous learning are watching the teacher and following the lesson at the same time. So the teacher is managing synchronous learning and in-person. And so right now, several districts are utilizing the simultaneous instruction as a solution, but they're exploring different ways that they're delivering instruction for those families who want to do in person and those families who want to be at home. We might be able to do it where, and I had conversations with one of the kindergarten teams, depending on the numbers, that they're willing to switch rosters. So all the families who want to do in person, that teacher now has them, and all the families that want to do synchronous, asynchronous remote learning, they have them. Another kindergarten group is one teacher is going to do all the in-person learning for all the students who are willing, and then the other will do the remote learning. So I think I kind of repeated that. But I was thinking about both different, because one school, both teachers will have both classes just because the numbers are small. Whereas at the other school, it's one will do in person and the other will do remote learning.
And for answering, Daria, I do also want to clarify to the public that you all have asked direction to pursue what this will look like. And so now that, the board has given direction that they are interested in taking next steps, we know that you are going to go back and do your homework about how this work, about what does it mean for parents who are in both the hub and need in-person instruction. And we are expecting in December, when we have our next board meeting, for this to be brought back and to those details to be worked out as much as possible before we go into the break, and then obviously into January. So,
Trustee Polito, is it possible that, we may need to have an additional board meeting in December, only because when we come back, sorry, Trustee, when we come back, it'll be 1 week. And then trying to pull our school improvement working group and holding our subcommittees. I just want to let you know, we may anticipate needing to meet.
We already are going to be having a special board meeting because we have to swear in new board members and reorganize as a board, and we're not able to do that at the regular session. So I would suggest that we time that so that you all are able to give us an updated report as to how the logistics will go around bringing.
Yeah, I think by then we would have a better number of families who are willing to come back at the very least.
I know you're still talking to teachers, you're going to be serving families, and there's going to be a lot more, hopefully, concrete information that you can provide as to how we will roll this out.
And then could I just ask a question through the chair? Rhonda White, she didn't give a date. She said at the beginning of the next trimester, I guess. What is the date? Is it February? Is it March?
I think it's March.
I don't have the calendar in front of me, so I'm really.
The third trimester starts on March 15th.
March 15th, okay. Thank you.
So is that everyone who wanted to speak, Solomon, or do we have more people?
No other speakers have raised their hand. Raise your hand if you would like to speak on this item. And no other hands.
Oh.
All right, well, there we go.
Oh, actually, there are.
There are.
I see two more hands.
Two just raised. Uh-oh.
We lost Tam.
Yeah, we lost Tam somehow.
And then Antonia.
Okay, Antonia, I'm going to promote you. You should be able to speak now. Sorry, Tam, I'm not sure what happened.
It's all good. I can say something if you want me to. As a yes.
Antonia, we can see you now.
Que están haciendo muy buen trabajo y muy buen plan lo que están haciendo. Y como dijo la señora Ronda, creo, que con lo que hay lo del virus, todo esto, el plan que tienen todos ellos es que sí convenzamos a las familias para que les hagamos su test y a los niños y estén en clases para que aprendan porque en casa sí está muy difícil. Muchísimas gracias.
She said, I don't know if everybody was hearing the other channel, but she said that she believes everyone's doing a good job. And then to Ms. Rhonda's point, she thinks it's important that we really educate parents about getting tested and the importance of it. And that she says that she feels like bringing students back who really need it is something that parents really need right now. That's what I understood from her comments. It's a summary for those who do not understand Spanish. Okay, so you said we have one more, Solomon? No, that's it?
That's it.
Hey, thank you to all the speakers for asking questions and providing your input. And we look forward to getting follow-up reports on this. Okay, and that is everything for item 8A, correct, Superintendent Sidoria? Okay, so let's move to item 8B, which is approving a consultant contract for the strategic plan.
Okay. Yes, I would like to present to you for the board to consider partnering with Roy Advisors, specifically Ann Waterman Roy. As we currently know, the world changed dramatically since we approved our strategic plan in February. And the last hour and 20 minutes of conversation highlights the challenges that we have faced in Ravenswood as we try to flip education. We still believe in the strategic priorities laid out in the plan, regardless of the fact that things have dramatically changed since we approved the plan in February. We still believe in relevant, rigorous, standard-aligned instruction, that it's critical whether in person or via distance learning. If anything, COVID has made this even more obvious, and it's definitely made it achieving our strategic priorities even more challenging. So for our strategic plan to be a roadmap and North Star to guide our work, we need to update it and reflect the new post-COVID challenges. Especially updating our strategic initiatives to reflect the new challenges. We also need to reset the timelines so we can focus on what is important now and deliver on what we promise. First, we need to add new initiatives around implementing the strategic priorities in terms of improving and implementing effective distance learning. And one around designing and implementing a plan to bring more students back on campus for effective hybrid and for some full week instruction. So getting real clear on the answer to this question is also one of the top priorities for January in regards to checking in with each initiative lead, the owners of each of the priorities, and those owners are the directors, Jen, Jennifer, Lara, Cindy, Will, myself, Tony, and getting a status update and bringing back to the board a proposal for updated lists of initiatives and milestones. Principals and district admin are working hard to redesign schools and learning in response to COVID. So like our students, staff, and families, they are stretched. We are stretched. And this is what's taxing our entire staff. There is so much new learning. Student Services is identifying resources in community to support families who are trying to make ends meet without reliable jobs and who can't go to work. And we found out from Los Robles, they are taking the morning off. Special Ed is revamping how to deliver services online and holding, they're holding many meetings to rewrite IEPs to match the needs of students who, to match what we are being able to deliver during remote learning. CNI is ensuring that there's alignment and coherence in education and to ensure that there's equity for kids. We're training teachers, we're focusing on providing and developing new skills for teachers so that they can access info online. Finance folks are untangling the federal funds and managing tons of new costs. Operations team has figured out how to make our facilities safe for staff and students and supporting students who are on and off campus. Technology, I think, is self-explanatory on how they are being taxed and responding in many different directions from the staff community and students. And then HR on top of new laws, policies, credentialing impact, that have been impacted by COVID, let alone now the task of doing the contact tracing and the COVID testing. And then myself needing to line all of these departments and the school sites with all the work at hand, myself in meeting with cabinet members, myself meeting with principals to hold on to the expectation and ensuring that there's accountability around the fundamental task of teaching the instructional core, which is making sure our content is still grade level and standards aligned, to focus on how we're going to increase engagement with students and helping sites develop strategies and SMART goals around that, in addition to ensuring that we're implementing the skills that we're taught that are best practices. So we want our strategic plan to still be our guiding light. We still want it to be a tool for us. And there's pieces that our departments are able to push, but there are some pieces that we do need assistance with, otherwise they are going to drop off. So as we did launch the strategic plan with board, staff, community, a facilitator came in to bring us together and to align the work and to establish priorities. And so an external consultant can help facilitate and let district staff focus on solutions. And particularly that is why we hired a tune, for example. We need that lift again. And we need that lift to help us modify the strategic plan and support staff to make sure our strategic plan priorities are reflected in our work. We've been trying to be strategic, not just reactive, keeping an eye on instruction, investing in new tools to make sure teachers have the tools to teach in a distance learning setting. We've been focused on the social emotional well-being. The wellness is a priority for our students, making sure that we have the mental health supports. And if we do this deliberately, we are reacting and moving away from our priorities because we're responding to the needs of our staff and our students. And if we continue to react, we're going to do what is comfortable and not necessarily do what is always best for students in terms of keeping our eyes on the prize. So if we're asking anyone staff member to update the strategic plan and coordinate multiple initiatives, something will have to drop off their plate. And we also need more and better communication and engagement with families. And with all the changes that are happening, we need that support with the communication and bringing the stakeholders in, very similarly to what we did with the school merge. So new information, we're constantly getting updates. We just had a press release from the county on Monday. So there's constantly new information flying around about testing, requirement protocols, best practices across other districts. And so we would like to engage with an experienced district administrator and strategy consultant starting in January. And we would like this consultant to help us update and implement our strategic plan, propose updates to the strategic initiatives and timeline. You can see here, coordinate and project manage implementation of the district strategic plan, monitor and report on progress, including research analysis as needed, and then lead some initiatives as well. I see this individual helping to serve as a point person to gather COVID updates, co-facilitate our school improvement working group, and then help us leap forward on a couple of priorities, specifically 4 and 6 around family engagement and then strong communication and feedback loops. And our proposed partner is Ann Waterman-Roy, who does have a strong track record of supporting Ravenswood and other districts. She's an experienced leader and consultant, a former director of strategic planning at Boston Public Schools, a former school leader and nonprofit executive director, has significant experience around strategic consulting, including Franklin McKinley School District, education, nonprofits, and private school sector. And in regards to the work in Ravenswood, Ann Waterman-Roy helped design and implement our school merger engagement, decision-making, and communications last fall, which, as challenging as it was, I was very proud of the fact that we engaged the entire community through that process. And there were some trade-offs that the board had to make, but either way it went, the information that was gathered and the communication and the meetings and the strategy was that everyone had a voice and was heard, and final decision made sense. Anna Waterman-Roy also helped us co-facilitate the Reopening Schools Task Force this summer, and then also support us with the recovery plan as the lead writer of our recovery plan. And that recovery plan served as a major anchor of our learning continuity attendance plan, as Lada helped us ensure that we have all of our content. The recovery plan actually also was a major, had a lot of the content, or carries a lot of the content that's in the learning continuity plan. And so, are there any questions?
Okay, so let's have your presentation, Superintendent Sidaria.
Yes.
All right, so if we can exit out of the share screen, please.
Mm-hmm.
I will invite questions or comments from the board regarding this item.
Through the chair, I have a question. Thank you. Miss Sudaria, Superintendent Sudaria, can you tell us about where this is coming from? I know it's not coming from the general fund, but the funding for this position?
Yes, right. It is grant money. And so we do have new monies from the foundation to be able to support this role, which is about 30 hours a week.
Mm-hmm. And then would that be, okay, so no fiscal impact there. Would that be taking money from something else that we could use it for, or is it kind of like earmarked in a way, right, unofficially for this type of support? Or
Right. This is not taken away from the budget that was already established. This is actually new dollars.
yes. Yeah, I'm just thinking even with the new dollars, is it something? And only because I do agree that or I do feel that this support is necessary and needed, especially in a time such as this. My one concern is the rate is a bit high. And maybe that's standard for this type of business, but when I do the math for a year, it comes out, you know, I think even higher than, you know, someone else, you know, maybe your role too. I don't know. Don't want to get into the details, but I think that's my one concern. So that's why I was asking, is there something else? And, you know, it's even though it's not coming out of our budget and it's new dollars, the rate feels a little high, but otherwise I'm in support of this position. Thanks for answering those questions.
Sure.
Yes, Trustee Gona.
Yes, I do have some concerns, just like Ms. Abomahan. I feel like it is very high pay for it. And it says that it's gonna be 30 hours, well, 30 hours and 150 an hour. That's a lot of money. And for how long is this gonna be?
Yeah, so on Agenda Online, the contract states that it's from January 1, 2021 through December 31st, 2021. So it's 1 year. And yeah, so it doesn't include any, the rate doesn't include any payroll, taxes, or benefits, or other things like that as well. Just to keep that in mind.
You know, to me, this is kind of disappointing because I kind of remember when you came here, you give us a lot of promise of eliminating consultants and spending the money on our children directly. And I just don't want this to go back to the way it was with so many consultants and being spent in something else. I feel like, you know, with this school we high, we really need more teachers to address the issues that our kids have, which is a lot important. And also when we put the strategic plan together, I mean, it was never advised that we might need somebody to, you know, to help us keep it, work on it. It was like it was the owner of something and they were gonna be responsible for up.
Right.
So it's disappointing for me, and I feel like this is not the money, even though it's coming from the foundation. You know that money comes from the foundation. It's not money that could be used on the students. Just worries me to see all this money going to consultants again.
Right. In terms of the 30 hours a week, it doesn't mean that we will need always the 30 hours a week. But right now, we didn't expect, we were prepared to own all of it, right, moving forward. But COVID hit, and this is the argument I'm trying to make. There's too many things for us to address. We are trying to focus on instruction. We're trying to focus on those goals. And right now, to be able to modify our strategic plan to reflect our current practices under the current conditions, we do need that support. We also need the support to coordinate the communication. We need to over communicate at this point in time, and to have somebody to help us strategize how to do that is needed. And that's why we're only having it right now for 1 year. And again, I want to emphasize, it doesn't mean that we're going to utilize this individual for 30 hours every week through the entire year.
Trustee Wilson?
Yeah. So in terms of the pay, even though you say that it may not be 30 hours, the way that this contract reads is that the consultant sets their own schedule, right? And she can work any place, anywhere. So, you know, it's up to her to decide whether she's going to work 30 hours or not. I'm not quite clear on that. And then I noticed that you described the work that she did in Ravenswood or with Ravenswood. Can you tell me what her role was and the relationship that she had to the district when she was doing this work?
Yeah, she's currently working with Innovate at the time. But we utilized her skill sets to be able to support us. And I think we all saw the benefits of her skill sets and her expertise in galvanizing and orchestrating stakeholder meetings, planning agendas, and helping with communication.
I thought that was all your work.
I'm sorry, I don't take ownership of everything. I pride myself on being able to do and have distributive leadership.
Just I don't remember hearing that she was, you know, this is the first time I hear her name.
Through the chair, I remember seeing her at the meetings and knowing of her work and hearing about it during that time.
And I'm sorry, I also want to reiterate, we did indicate that Innovate had helped support us in the process. I was very transparent.
Yes, I heard about Innovate.
And I never take ownership of doing anything all by myself. I have a strong cabinet, and this right here, COVID, we need the help.
Okay, so is that all your questions and comments, Trustee Wilson? We can't hear you.
Sorry. I just noticed that, and it kind of makes me uncomfortable, the fact that you described her relationship with the district, but you didn't mention Innovate Schools. And Innovate Schools is a charter school, operation. So let me finish. And so it bothers me when, and then so first I need to understand what her role is with Innovate and her relationship with Innovate. And then, like I said, it bothers me that that wasn't part of your explaining what her role was or what she did in the district. Because when I saw that you had an experienced school administrator, I'm like, what school? Did she do some administration in this district? We weren't aware of it. So
I would like to be very transparent too, that I've had conversations with board members to be very transparent of who and why I wanted to move forward with Ann Waterman Roy. And yes, she has been affiliated with Innovate. We've never partnered with Innovate. I took direction from the board for many reasons. And we've had our own experiences, right? But what we found is there's been trust that was built with our relations with Ann Waterman Roy, who happens to be here too, who can take further questions, and who effectively allowed us to move forward through one of the most challenging situations. In addition to that, supporting us with the reopening of schools and having us come through right now and having another think partner who's been outside of our district, outside of our state, not just working for charter schools, but working for public schools as well. And there's these ideas that I am happy to take on as long as it best serves the needs of our students.
Okay. Just add one more thing through the chair. So Superintendent Sadaria, when you came on, we had an associate superintendent's position and you eliminated it. And I was very clear with you. And I said to you at that time, you are going to need some people around you to help you to do your job, because the superintendent is expected to do a lot. And your response was that you're going to bring on a team, which should be your team, so that you can have all of that covered. So now you're looking at bringing someone in to provide you the level of support that in my mind would be an associate superintendent, and my preference would be no consultant, but bring on a staff person.
We, in response to that, Trustee Wilson, yes, I do remember that conversation. And up to this point, until COVID hit, we were handling our business and supporting the district. I'm trying to paint the picture that under these circumstances, we need to revisit our strategic plan. We had a facilitator do that from the launch with our strategic plan to launch our strategic plan. And I'm asking for the support to revamp our strategic plan, bring in stakeholders, support with communication.
All right. I have a lot to say, but I want to hear from the public. I know there's hands raised, so I my comment. And so right now, the public, I'm hearing my echo.
Sorry, I was going to say Rhonda White has her hand raised.
Wait, yeah, okay, give me a second. So right now it's a time I'm asking the public if they have something to share, say it now. After we close public comment, the board's going to close on deliberation and move to a vote instead of going back and forth. So please raise your hand if you would like to, provide a comment for this. So I believe we have Ms. Rhonda White who would like to say some words.
Good evening, board, trustees, superintendent, community, families. I won't go through my whole spiel again. What's up, y'all? I'm just here to talk about this contract, and I have mixed feelings about it. I agree that we need the support through this COVID with the responsibilities and the extra things that are happening. I've had the opportunity to work with Ann in some of these committees with the recovering plan, with the reopening of schools. I guess my biggest issue is, as the union president, I'm always looking at contracts and consultants, and $150 per week at 30 hours a week is $4,500 a week, which is $18,000 a month, which is $216,000 a year, which is more than what our superintendent makes. So I understand that's just straight consultant fees, but as the union president, I would be remiss not to miss that. So while I agree with Superintendent Sadaria, we need some support through this, I'm just not sure at this many hours and at this price. And so that's what I would say. I think we need to try to find a middle ground, because that's a lot of money that could be used for something else, but we do need the support to get through this difficult time. So thank you.
I also want to emphasize that I would inform the consultant on how many hours, and if there's not work to do at the time, there's just not work to do. And so they would be asked to work fewer hours.
But you have to understand, when you're asking the board to approve the contract as you've written it up, we are approving an expense up to $200 and whatever $1,000. So whether or not it reaches that amount, that is a contract that we are being asked to approve. So we have to look at the max use of whatever hour she uses. We can't look at the best case scenario. In this case, we have to look at the worst case scenario and what that's going to cost the district. So I do understand what you're saying, that it may not be 30 hours every week, but as this contract states, we are liable for 30 hours a week up until the full year is up. Okay, so do we have any other speakers, Solomon?
No, no one else is raising their hand.
Okay, so I think that trustees raised important concerns that I had when I thought and looked at this contract and this opportunity. Of course, the cost, over $200,000 for the year, to RTA's president's point, that's more than our superintendent, is to me an excessive amount for the work that we are needing additional support for. I can't justify that price tag. When I look at the work that she's being asked to do, especially when leading, she's essentially leading the strategic plan, right? So the first thing I wanted to say, the strategic plan has been approved by the board, okay? If we have to amend, change, or update it, that can't be done independent of the board, right? So we just approved that strategic plan. We went through a long, extensive process. We just approved that plan in January, and we're already asking someone to come and update and change and redo things. That's concerning to me. You know, we went through an extensive process for a reason of being thoughtful and getting input from various stakeholders to now not even a year. We approved it in January. We're in November. Not even a year in, we're already saying we need to do a revamp for the strategic plan. I get that COVID has put us in a situation that we didn't anticipate. And I get that it has created certain unexpected stressors, and it has drawn our attention to other things that we didn't anticipate. I understand, and I'm sympathetic to that. What I'm struggling with is most of the priorities and the milestones and the initiatives that we did should be a part of the work that we are doing. Every single milestone initiative had what we were going to do and who was assigned to it, whether it fell under human resources, whether it fell under student services, whether it fell under curriculum and instruction. And the point of the strategic plan is for it to weave into what we do, not add, not it shouldn't be independent of each other. Like, we're doing all this work and the strategic plan is this other thing we do on the side. No, our strategic plan should be melting into what the work that we do. So I don't know how this is being carried out, but it's raising a lot of red flags for me. Again, I understand that COVID has created additional stressors. It's done so for every district across the country. We are not different in that way, okay? We are dealing with the same stressors that countries across the state, across the country are dealing with. And a lot of the work that she's supposed to be leading, you know, from my experience and my perspective, the strategic plan is led by the superintendent. And I feel like we're almost having a consultant superintendent to do the work. I know that's not how you intend it, but when I read this, that's what I'm understanding. And one thing I heard all last year, or all this year and some of last year, was having the right people in the right places, having the right people in the right places. We let go of a lot of district office positions. We let go of a lot of consultants because there was this belief that we could do it better and smarter and leaner. And, you know, whether it was Trustee Wilson or somebody else advising to be careful with where you cut because things happen, right? Situations happen that are unexpected. Decisions were made, and we are where we're at now.
Which in the long run has saved the district significant.
Superintendent Stoddard, I'm not done yet. So in the long run, do I think that we need support carrying this forth? Yes. Why? Because I'm hearing it, right? I'm hearing that the superintendent is saying, myself and my team, we're exhausted, we're drained. There's a lot here that we're not able to do because all things related to COVID. What's being presented before us, I don't feel like this is the right approach or the right strategy to get that type of support. So that's how I feel about it. And that's where I'm at. I know we're gonna need support. I don't feel like what's presented before us is the best way forward. And that's just my feeling on it.
We're not, sorry, not sure if you're done.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're not looking at changing our priorities, the 6 priorities. We're not looking at doing that. We're looking at adding initiatives. We're looking at modifying initiatives. So for example, strategic priority number 2, around provide safe, joyful, and productive learning environments with the proper social emotional supports. There are specific initiatives there that can't even be launched because we're in COVID and doing remote learning, like codifying behavior management systems. We can't even address that, but it's part of our plan. And in regards to a consultant superintendent, in terms of someone helping strategize communication and facilitating strategic plan, we had someone do that for us. We had someone do that for us. And if we had an assistant superintendent, is that assistant superintendent doing a superintendent's job?
Strategic plan is, in my experience, the superintendent's role.
Absolutely. But there are many districts that have a strategic planning consultant communications person as well.
I'm not really looking to have a debate about the situation. I'm sharing my perspective as a board member of how I see it, what my experience is with it. And, you know, paying someone $230,000, $50,000 a year to make updates to initiatives.
Can I add about the salary?
It seems very excessive, and that's how I feel about it.
We're not in a position to do that. We're not financially, we're not in that position to do that.
We actually
that money can be used on the students again instead of wasting that.
It's not necessarily wasting, because this is additional funding. We found the funders to be able to provide this funding. The $200,000 actually would pay for benefits, childcare, taxes, and it equates to essentially a $150,000 position if you add benefits and taxes to that. So really, it's, if you were to take, you know, the $150,000 salary and you add benefits, that's what it would equate to. So in reality, it is kind of a $150,000 position.
Through the chair, if I may, is that okay? Thank you. I just wanted to quickly say that, again, I want to reiterate that I do believe that support is necessary, particularly at this time. So if we're a district with circumstances and challenges that other districts aren't usually faced with, right? I think that's a known fact. I would imagine that those challenges are, you know, exponentially heightened during a period like this. So it means that the way that other schools, yes, they are dealing with challenges. Yes, they have to figure out their distance learning plan, but their needs might not be as great as ours. So I am of the belief that we do need all hands on deck and maybe more hands on deck. As I stated before, it is difficult for me to accept this rate, this billing rate, because of the amount that it equals out to, because it's more than our superintendent is making. So I would be willing to negotiate that rate and bring it down, right? That's what I would ask they do. But I also do see the need for the scope of work to be more, just to include other things. Like, I feel like when I think about the type of help, the type of help that we need, I think it extends, or it goes beyond what's listed here in terms of the agreement between the consultant and us. And obviously, I'm not on the floor, I'm not doing the work, I'm not there, but just my imagination would say more work is needed. And so I wonder if there's another way to get the support that we need. And I'm very thankful for the help of, of contributors and supporters who would fund something like this, but I'm trying to get the most out of this opportunity, like that they're giving us to fund it. So I would change the rate, and I would even extend, like I said, the responsibilities. Trustee Wilson mentioned potentially bringing on a staff position, which would, I think, then give you the opportunity to extend those responsibilities, right? Because then they'd be doing all kinds of stuff. For example, if you brought on an assistant superintendent. But then I worry about that, because then, we're tied to a salary, to your point, Superintendent, about the savings, long-term savings of the hard decisions of cutting staff over time. We'd now be adding that back to our general budget. And then I don't know that you can say, we'll have an assistant superintendent for 1 year. So that's a concern. At the end of the day, I think we need the help, but I think it's hard to agree to this rate. and with these responsibilities. So I would be willing to go back, look at something more exhaustive, and smaller amount of money. And I would also state, Trustee Guyona Mendoza, that I do think this is affecting what happens with our students. This help is going to translate to a benefit of our students. This is not something that just benefits teachers or the superintendent or staff. This is so that we can create the plans and do the work that we're trying to do to give our students what they need at this time. So yeah, those are my concerns.
Trustee Bromahin, I agree with you. You know, we are dealing with a complex set of barriers that are unlike our neighboring school district, which is one of the reasons why, to Trustee Wilson's point, when we were looking at resizing the district office, we said, be mindful and thoughtful about where you cut, because the job is a lot more difficult than it appears, right? That's why we urged staff to be, once again, thoughtful and mindful about how we were restructuring as a team so that we wouldn't be burdened with these types of situations. So these were the recommendations that came before us. And once again, I'm going to remind everybody that they said, you know, lean and mean and right people in right places, right? So I do believe that in many ways we do need more hands, right, to help lift up this burden of COVID-19. But in many ways, some of us feel like we've been having these conversations for some time, and now we're in a position of considering bringing someone on for $200,000 to do this scope of work of, you know, updating the strategic plan, right?
Yeah, I get that 100%. And which is why I'm saying I think they should do more, and I think it should be at a smaller rate. I don't know how we could have foreseen a pandemic, a global pandemic. And I do know also we had a very clear challenge of fiscal solvency. So again, I appreciate the board's work and the superintendent's work on looking at our budget, making cuts that were not necessarily wanted to make in order to keep us responsible, right, to our budget. And again, I don't think no one could have guessed that this was coming when you make cuts. That's all. I'm gonna just put that on the table, and I get it, and I know, and I respect the opinions that people have had. But I also think sometimes you can't know what's happening or what's gonna come. And
right.
Yeah. So.
Right. And I agree with that. And I think probably because Trustee Wilson and I have been here during odd circumstances, not a pandemic, but we always are dealing with a strange set of facts and circumstances that is unlike any other district, right? So once again,
can I maybe provide
I just real quick, Sidaria, I get that, Trustee Polito, and I respect that, and I get that. So I just want to put that on the table. Sorry, Superintendent Sidaria.
No. Looking at the total cost, could we propose then that we reduce the hours, approve the contract, be reducing the hours to a maximum of 20, 25 or even 20 hours a week as a maximum hours per week as a consideration?
I have a question. Is she actually from Innovate? Does she belongs to Innovate?
Yeah, we can actually have Anne come in and speak to that.
Because
she has worked with Innovate, yes.
Because what I have here is that Innovate is true, wants to help the school. So this will be great to do a pro bono job. We are a needy school, and that will be great for them to show. You didn't have to pay them for that they did before, right? You said that you worked with her during the opening.
The district has not paid, no. And the district will not pay. This is from the foundation.
Right, but it's money that is for the school district. So to actually Trustee Gayona's point, her point she's making is if they helped in the past through their public Innovate role, why wouldn't they be able to continue helping in that capacity through their
exactly.
We want to work directly with Ann Waterman Boy.
But if they're paid to do work and help support public schools, why wouldn't that be an avenue we explore?
Because too, I believe she has other endeavors that she's looking at moving forward. And again, Anne could address some of these questions.
What about reaching to innovate and let them know that you heard that, you know, they want to help the schools, because that's what I have always been, that they're really not against public and get better. So this will be a very good for innovate to really, you know, do something and show us that they're for that. So we can win them and trust them, see that they are for our community.
Right. So again, I've had individual conversations trying to be as transparent as possible with our trustees. And in regards to formal partnership, we also want to be very strategic and have formal partnerships and formalize the work that we are doing. Working with Ann Waterman Roy will help us formalize our work and specifically address the current needs around the COVID and how it's impacting our district specifically. Our district specifically, we need the lift at this point in time. And having conversations with some of our trustees, that was recognized as a need.
All right, so we have this proposal before us, so it's important, and I think everyone's expressed their opinions and perspectives. I think given what the agendized item we have before us, we've I don't know if you're telling us you're speakers, but we're moving to.
There is a speaker.
We're done with the speaker portion, Solomon. So at this point, we need to make a decision based on the proposal before us. So I will entertain a motion to approve this proposal.
I'm sorry, you're not bringing in a speaker?
No.
Did I miss it? Okay.
So I will make a motion to approve item 8B. We need a second. You don't have to vote in favor of it. You just have to second it so we can take a formal vote.
Okay, I'll second.
Okay, roll call, please.
President Polito.
No.
Vice President Wilson.
No.
Trustee Guyona.
Big no.
Trustee Chabot-Mahin.
At this rate and under these conditions, no.
Okay, motion fails to carry 0-4. All right, thank you. We will now continue with our agenda. And I believe that leaves us at 8C, which is RCSC's response to the grand jury report, San Mateo County grand jury report.
Solomon Hill, Director of Technology for the Ravenswood City School District. I'm going to share my screen. Let me know, I've been having some audio problems, so let me know if you have trouble hearing me. Here today to talk about the San Mateo 2019-2020 grand jury report. They produced and released to the public and to the board a 20-page grand jury report talking about ransomware. Specifically, they came up with a number of ransomware findings that I'd like to share, and they've requested us to respond to them. So I just have a couple of slides to share about it. To define ransomware for the board and the public, ransomware, the way I like to think about it is it's essentially a computer virus that hackers or organized criminals even try to install or spread or accidentally get spread onto a computer. And the person behind it uses that virus to encrypt the data on your computer so that you can no longer use it, and they demand a ransom in order to release it back to you. So they essentially hold your data hostage for money. And the world is seeing more ransomware attacks, and the grand jury report produced a pretty long report and had some recommendations. So the findings of the grand jury were essentially that it's a growing and real threat here in San Mateo County. Some government agencies have been hit by ransomware. That in the United States, overall, about 12% of organizations that get it are local government or schools. That there can be a significant cost to ransomware, whether you pay the ransom or if you try to get your data back. The cost can be significant if you're not prepared for it. And that having a well-defined and executed cybersecurity plan is a critical part of the IT security strategy that you should have to have it in order to protect yourself against it. In addition, that security plan should contain elements like having malware, antivirus, anti-spam software on your systems, having good backups, and doing recovery testing. In addition, identifying and trying to prevent what are called phishing attempts. Those are those emails that sometimes slip through that you will see in your inbox that are a lie, and they're trying to get you to send them your personal information or password. That's called a phishing attempt. That's the most common way that ransomware is spread through the United States. That's also how big hacks you hear about. For example, the big Democratic 2016 during the election, the Democrats got hacked. Everyone remembers that. That was because of phishing attempts. And using spam filters is an important part of protecting IT systems from phishing attempts and the maybe ransomware that results from it. In addition, the grand jury had a finding that testing a full restore of servers from your backups is a critical component and should be undertaken regularly. And training new employees and doing recurring training on existing employees is another important part. So these are their findings. We have written a letter that was attached to your agenda that we essentially agree with all the findings with just a couple of things about potentially some of the data that we didn't do the data, so we're not 100% sure, but we generally agree. The grand jury made recommendations, 4 in particular, that they wanted us to respond to. The first is that by November 30th, 2020, hence this meeting, agenda item, that you, the board, make a request of my department, the IT department, addressing the concerns in this report that I just talked about. So you would direct me to produce a report. That report, and it's a confidential internal report because this is security related information. We don't want to put out there on the internet, on YouTube, right, exactly how we do security, right? So this is a confidential report, and I should provide it to you by June 30th, 2021. Sorry, it says 2020. I should say 2021. That's a typo. Given the results depending upon the results of the internal report, they are recommending that we might request further guidance from the Department of Homeland Security and or the County Controller's Office in order to implement some of our guidelines. And also given the potential results of our report, that we might choose to utilize the FCC's cybersecurity planning tool in order to beef up our security essentially. So that's the only other thing I wanted to add to that, just in very general terms, because again, we're going to do a confidential report, is that we recently made, during our Ravenswood IT infrastructure phase 3 and 4 upgrades I come to talk about, and particularly in the facilities committee, go in a little more detail. We've done 4 things that have helped, that we've put resources for. And one is we've modernized our backup strategy recently. We have new anti-phishing measures in place. We've introduced redundancy, so if something is down, something else comes. And we've introduced new cybersecurity measures as part of that upgrade. So I'm not gonna go into detail, but those are 4 things we've done in the last few months. And are there any questions about our letter? The one thing I do wanna add is all of the districts in our county, in both the superintendent level meetings and the district technology director meetings, we collaborated And we have very similar responses because we have similar measures and got similar guidance from County Council about this. So people have been from other districts have been very open and collaborative and sharing of their responses. So it's kind of a county-wide effort, and every city and every district received the same report and is being asked to do the same process. So if there are any questions about this, I would like for you to direct me.
Thank you, Solomon. Any questions or comments from the board regarding this report?
I'm just through the chair. I'm glad to hear that we're working alongside of other school districts, because that was actually going to be my question. I don't want us out there alone. And thank you, Solomon, for the report. And I'm grateful and thankful that we upgraded our system to kind of put some of these protections in place.
Yeah, me too. We can sleep a little better, but we'll talk in more detail about it.
All right. Anybody else? Okay, Solomon, do we have any speakers?
No one has raised their hand to ask questions, so I think not.
All right. If no one else has any follow-up, I will entertain a motion to approve item 8C.
I make a motion to approve item 9AC.
Sorry, 8C, yes.
I second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Yeah.
Superintendent Sadaria.
I was on mute. President Polito.
Aye.
Vice President Wilson.
Aye.
Trustee Guyona.
Aye.
Trustee Shabomaheen.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Thank you very much. We'll now jump to item 9A, which is a resolution to designate new representatives to the DGS Schools Facilities Program.
Good evening, folks. This is hopefully relatively straightforward. This is similar to, I think, something we passed at the last board meeting. Basically, in order for us to get a project tracking number, we have a account with the California Department of General Services. The current contact information is out of date there. It is not entirely clear to me exactly why, but for whatever reason, they require a board resolution naming the new members to represent the district. The representatives we're proposing, given the operational nature here, is Superintendent Sadaria, myself, and Delma Camacho. Are there any questions I can answer at this time?
Questions, comments from the board? Okay, I do any speaker, Solomon?
Sorry, no speakers.
Okay, an action item, so I'll entertain a motion to approve item 9A.
Through the chair, I'll make a motion to approve item 9A.
So, I'm sorry. This is a resolution.
Yes, are you seconding the motion?
I'll second, yeah. I just wanted to remind us that it's a resolution and we don't have Stephanie here.
Okay, I will read. Okay, it's not opening up for me. That's unfortunate. Oh, here we go. Ravenswood City School District Governing Board Resolution 2020-2021-14. Whereas the California Department of General Services requires a school board resolution to update the district representatives, whereas this updated information is required for upgrading school facilities. It is currently, whereas DGS currently lists Mr. Kinley and Mr. Stephen Eichmann as representatives, even though neither of those individuals are currently working for the district. It is hereby resolved that DGS be notified that Ms. Delma Camacho and Mr. William Egger will serve as district representatives in addition to Superintendent Gina Sadaria. So roll call, please.
President Polito.
Aye.
Vice President Wilson.
Aye.
Trustee Guyona.
Aye.
Trustee Shabomaheen.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Okay, we are almost at the very end. Okay, this is Board of Trustees. So 10A, we are all present, although we are down by 1. Everyone who's supposed to be here is here. So we will move to 10B. which is consideration to approve the board policy 6157, distance learning. So this is for first reading and action, unless someone requests for it to be, to have a second reading.
Through the chair, I do have a question about it.
Yes, of course.
Thank you. There is, I believe it's on the second page in the paragraph that starts the district. So the district shall take steps to ensure that distance learning opportunities are available to all students. So I'm trying to understand, are they saying, it sounds like a general statement, meaning not necessarily specific to this time and this pandemic and distance learning, right? Our distance learning decision. It sounds like it's always. So do we as a school or as a district have a responsibility to provide distance learning opportunities for any student that chooses?
So we would have to come to a consensus with collaboration with the school site administrators to determine what coursework and content would be distance learning apart from a pandemic, right? We can also decide to be able to have distance learning be available for those, as it states in the beginning of the policy, for independent learning. Some other examples at the top.
Yeah. So,
right.
Yeah, I saw that. So I was trying to understand what they meant by independent learning and then what we are responsible for providing outside of the pandemic. So just want to make sure I understand that any student in the district can choose independent learning, and then we need to support them through some type of curriculum, or no, via this paragraph on page 2?
I'll need support, Cindy, around what are the criteria to be able to be considered to go onto independent study. But there is criteria, and you would still follow that same policy, but distance learning can be made available. Also, you know, we're looking at different ways to deliver instruction. So there needs to be a consensus on what subjects we would do distance learning if we wanted to be innovative in how we move forward with our approach to deliver instruction. And then, of course, if we have school closure, we would have the availability to afford distance learning to our families. But we would still follow the protocol for, you know, students who would qualify for homeschooling, homeschooling because of medical needs, or for reasons of doing independent study because they are traveling for some reason for an emergency more than 5 days. I believe it was the 5-day mark, right, Cindy?
Correct.
Yeah, so if more than 5 days, then we can decide to offer distance learning for those who are on independent study. So it's an opportunity to be innovative with how we want to approach and do some flip instruction, whether or not it's for specials, whether or not it's for students who are on independent study, or for some reason we are now in a pandemic.
I have a question or maybe a comment.
Yes.
About if, you know, there is a student who is gonna be suspended because whatever reason, and instead of suspending him or her, it could go through distance learning the time of the suspension. So it's kind of that way they still learn and they're not just home.
Yeah, there's so many options now with having gone through this experience that, you know, distance learning can help make sure students stay connected and don't miss instruction for whatever reason, even if you're at home sick, for example.
Yeah.
Okay, are those all the questions? Are there any speakers, Solomon? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve item 10B.
Tricia, I make a motion to approve item 10B.
I'll second.
I'm sorry, before we vote,
Uh-oh.
Chair, I'm just wondering, sorry, I stopped you before you voted. I'm still just wondering about this paragraph. And so because I don't know if it's just me misinterpreting it or that, you know, or I don't want it to lock us into something that is, you know, it's not really trying to say.
So what's the part that you're having the most challenge with accepting as it's written?
So it's the district shall take steps to ensure that distance learning opportunities are available to all students. And so it doesn't qualify it by, unless someone's saying that statement is qualified by page 1, where it's saying those students are independent learners and we have, certain criteria that have to okay. So, okay.
Yes.
All right.
And yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Roll call, please.
President Polito,
Aye.
Vice President Wilson,
Aye.
Trustee Guyona,
Aye.
Trustee Shabomeen.
Aye.
Great, motion carries 4-0. That takes us to item 10C. And this is just a first reading. I don't think you have anything to add to that, do you, Superintendent Sidaria? All right.
No, we do not. And staff made adjustments to the policies to indicate what options were selected that correspond with our CBA and our practices.
Okay, so let's jump to 10D, which is Board Vacancy Subcommittee. This is on the agenda because I wanted to remind the board that tomorrow is the last day that we gave for people to submit applications. And when Trustee Shabomeen and myself go through applications, we wanted to check with the board as a whole to talk about maybe critical criteria that we think will be important in guiding who we select if it's needed. I mean, maybe because obviously they have requirements they have to meet, but is there any criteria that we think is important to identify as we select who would move to interviews? And it doesn't mean that they would be disqualified, but it helps guide the process. So does anyone have anything in particular? Actually, I think I also want to note that Trustee Gaona would have to recuse herself from the conversation because
Say that.
yeah. Do you want me to say it, Trustee Gaona?
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so Trustee Gaona shared an interest to apply for the position. Therefore, she has to recuse herself from the process, which includes this very conversation, so she will not be able to engage.
Should I leave?
Yeah, but you make sure you come back and, towards the end.
Okay, I'm gonna to leave maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah, about 5 minutes is good.
All right. Okay.
So
Now.
Thank you.
So I have a question, if I could.
Yes.
Where was this posted?
On our website, and it went out through.
Where on the website?
Under announcements.
Under announcements?
I think it's on the first page. When I go to the page, you see it there with a pop-up of announcements.
Okay.
It's not on the banner, but it's on the first homepage.
I got it. Okay. I just want to make sure that it was.
Yeah, it's on our website, and it was also went out in a newsletter. It'd be great if we send out a reminder that they're due. So they're due tomorrow. As I said, Trustee Gaona shared an interest in applying, so I thought it was important to share that out because that would leave Trustee Wilson, myself, and Trustee Shabomeen to make this decision. I want to clarify to the broader community that this appointment will take three votes. So even though there's just
unanimous,
it has to be unanimous because we have to conduct as if we're a board of 5, even if we're down 2. So anything that gets approved, no matter who's absent or if someone, in this case, left the board, you still need a board majority, and a board majority for a board of 5 is 3. So we would have to all be able to agree and vote on whoever gets appointed, given that Trustee Gaona has now recused herself from the process because she's intending to apply. Anyone who would get appointed would require all 3 of us in support of that specific candidate. So it's gotten a little bit more interesting. So just wanted to note that. And we, Sharifa, really, this is for you. Do we want to establish any criteria, or are we just happy and merry to welcome all?
Well, I mean, I feel like as long as they're a registered voter, that they should have the right, if it's a person that's eligible to run for office, then, you know, that should be fine.
Okay, so as long as they meet the legal requirements that our lawyer stated in the previous meeting, you think that is sufficient enough? Okay. Trustee Chabot-Mahin, I don't know if you had any thoughts about this.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I feel somewhat conflicted, but I think obviously there's the legal requirements, but then I keep thinking of like Trustee Fitch and the characteristics she brought to the board, and understanding that, you know, this is filling her seat, if you will. And so I know something I would want to look for, and it's hard to say exactly what those qualities are, but I would have her in mind and thinking about her history in East Palo Alto, the spirit she brought to the board in terms of like being able to like balance competing priorities and opinions in a way. I feel like she was just a good balance to us. And so those are things I would look for, you know, have they been collaborative? Is there a way they can speak to that? Or are they involved in the city across, you know, communities and things like that?
Well, good
I know that doesn't give you anything concrete, like, sorry, but that's the mindset I'm going to have as we look at candidates.
Well, Trustee Chabot-Mahin, the fun part is that we're also going to be working on questions, interview questions, right? We're going to have to work on those and establish those as we go forward. And some of those things that you're talking about, we can weave into some of the questions. So it doesn't necessarily remove somebody from the process, but it'll allow us to gauge about certain qualities that we think are really important. So you're saying collaboration. I don't know how we would gauge if they would balance the board, because, you know, that's a personality trait that you don't know until you know a person well. But I think there's ways around that. Trustee Wilson, do you want to give any input?
Yeah,
as to
I mean, based on that, I'm glad, Tim, because I was just thinking of a general, you know, if you can't limit, you can't say that you cannot apply. So there's the general, you know, you got to be 18, blah, blah, blah. But I would say that it really is important that the person has a collaborative team kind of approach. I think that also the person has to be willing to commit the amount of time and hours that it takes to do this role, that they have the ability and have some experience with policies or reading, you know, like, and understand. You don't want somebody that comes in that doesn't know anything about anything and can't even read an ordinance, you know? So somebody that may have had some experience working in a structure that gives them opportunities to work collaboratively, but also to develop and analyze things.
Right. And we can, once again, we can find ways of framing questions that help us find more information on those things. Okay, well, tomorrow is the deadline. I know some of you are connected to community networks, social media networks. If you want to remind those networks that there's a deadline looming, and if they know anybody or themselves interested, to please apply. I mean, it's not often these opportunities come, so I would like to have as many options to wait from as possible. Although if there are too many, it'll be hard to get all three of us on the same page. Okay, so that was it for that. So thank you.
There's a speaker.
Okay. Are we?
Are you ready?
Writing
Rhonda
over.
White.
Oh, okay.
Rhonda, you promoted?
I'm having a whole conversation. I'm on mute. Excuse me. I just had a couple questions. Is it possible for us to know oh, hello, everybody. I'm Rhonda White. Thank you. Good to be here. How many people have applied for the seat? If we could know that, if that's possible. What would happen if the 3 remaining board members cannot come to a consensus around one person? And when will the interviews take place? Do we have a date and a time for that? Because I believe when I was at the meeting, I think it's going to be a public meeting, and then
Yes.
questions would be answered in front.
Okay, so your first question was around how many applicants. I haven't counted them, so I couldn't give you a number. Number two, if we cannot make a decision, this will go into the hands of the county that will issue an election that will cost us money. So when we talked about the subject at the last meeting, we made it clear that us failing to make a decision is allowing the county to make the decision for us that will come with the price tag. So we will go into an election probably in March, and we will have to work with a team of 4 until March comes around, which is challenging to do because I want to remind everybody, if there's an item where there's a 2-2 vote, it fails. So not the greatest place to be. And then your third question was, when will this be? A part of our agenda was announcing the next couple of meetings. One of those meeting dates was December 3rd, which is going to be a special board meeting at 5 p.m. That is when the interviews will take place. Our lawyer is looking into the details of how we're going to be able to manage the meeting. I'll make all related announcements about how it will be conducted at the beginning of the meeting so everyone's clear. But yes, you can save the date for December 3rd at 5 p.m. And it's still to be determined if it will be done virtually or in person.
Oh.
Because when we did when we were in COVID, when we did the superintendent search, we actually came together in person because we thought it was one of those critical things that in person was going to be a lot more effective in determining getting to know people, something that Zoom doesn't always provide. So we will know more details in the coming week about if it will be in person or virtual. We'll have to talk to my colleagues about that. But yes, December 3rd at 5 p.m. is the date right now for the interviews.
And then through the chair.
Yeah.
My experience with this group is that we really do take our responsibilities very seriously. And we are always concerned about the district. So I believe that we have been able to work together and will continue to work together so that we can bring consensus to this.
Thank you for saying that.
I want to make sure, I apologize. I was not alluding to that fact that the three of you could not come to a consensus. I'll make that very clear. It's just very different that there's only 3 of you and you have to all agree on one person. That was all I was saying. So as people are asking me questions, I like to ask them at the source so I have the right information to give back. Anna, you sure you don't have a guesstimate of how many applications you got? Come on, give up something.
I would have to pull myself away from this meeting, go into my email and look, and I don't know that this is an appropriate time on that.
The suspense. Okay, I'll get off.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
One other speaker.
Okay, we have another speaker.
Yes.
Okay. 2 minutes.
Jenny Bloom, I'm promoting you.
Hi. Can you guys hear me? Sorry. Okay. Sorry, I just don't see anything. It's just black screen. So the follow-up, because I know you said that it could be in person. If it's in person, because I know it has to be public, right? So is it going to be on Zoom public, or do people in the public who want to attend this special meeting on December 3rd, do they also have to come in person if you are doing it in person?
That's probably something we would have to work through with staff of how that would be able to be managed. We would have an option of having people come in person and probably not Zoom. What we've done in the past is that we are live streaming the meeting. So people via YouTube or Facebook are able to see the meeting happening. So that's probably one of 2 options that we would do if we do it in person.
Okay.
Sigona, that we're done. Just sent her a message. Okay, Are there any board communications? Nothing to report. Oh, excuse me. So I was excited to see what I thought were signages around the community related to COVID, but it turns out it wasn't. I think I don't even know what they're related to. I think it's like projects they're working. I don't know, Gina, do you have an update as to where they are? They told us what 2-3 weeks ago that they had signage coming, and you know they were going to reach out to us about putting things up to create awareness and education to our community and do a campaign. Do we have anything to report on that?
I don't have anything to report on the signage. I do have a report that they're working closely with the county to try to support us so that our students and families wouldn't have to pay, or we wouldn't have to pay the $40 fee. So I'm working closely with Marie McKenzie on how we can subsidize that cost. But I don't have any signage updates on any signage.
Okay. All right. Well, hopefully soon. All right. So nobody else has board communication? Maybe Trustee Gawana just popped in. Let me give her a second. Trustee Gawana, do you have a board report?
No, I'm staying home.
Okay. So in that case, I'm going to make announcements of our next few meetings. Our special board meeting that will host the interviews to fill the board vacancy will be on December 3rd at 5 p.m. Our next regular board meeting will be on December 10th. And right now we have a special board meeting on December 11th, but I think that date is likely to change. That will be for swearing in board members and also reorganizing the board. But we're probably going to weave in an update to, bringing students back. And I don't think that Friday is going to work for that date. So it's there for now, but board, please be on the lookout for any follow-up calls about rescheduling that last board meeting to another date. Okay?
Got it.
Wilson, we can't hear you.
I said, got it. All right, we're gonna be busy.
Yeah.
Month. All right.
Yeah, so this is the thing. When is the election gonna be certified?
I believe it's like the second Thursday of the month.
Because technically when, like you have to keep that in mind when you're scheduling these special meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Because,
I can't hear. Is it me? Is it Trustee
No, she froze.
I think she was asking about the timing, and I'll just answer her question. We spoke to county council, and they're the ones that actually advise us to schedule it after the 10th. That is when we're allowed to swear people in. So the 11th and on, it is allowable before the month ends.
No, I'm sorry. Say that again because you froze a part of it.
Okay, so we did talk to legal counsel, and he let us know any day after the 10th, but before the month ends, we would need to swear in and reorganize.
So that would mean that I'd be attending meetings after the 10th?
Well, no, any meeting after the 10th, you would not.
Okay, that's what I want to know. That's what I was trying to figure out.
So
figure out when my life is free.
The 10th will be your final meeting where you get all these headaches and then you get to be free as a bird, Trustee Wilson.
That's on the 10th or the 9th or the 3rd?
No, the 10th.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have an awesome night. And I'm going to adjourn this meeting at 10:02. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.